Okay, this is how to glue a sole on your shoe so that it stays solid. This is a pair that I've been working on. I first got this leather piece cut out, and then I traced the sole based on the leather. That's just in case you cut this a little bit funky based on the pattern or anything like that. You want the sole traced based on the leather. So first you're gonna take a leather rougher and you are gonna rough up the sole. You wanna do it like a hatch symbol. Honestly, the rougher the better, and make sure you go around and get the edges really solid. All right, so even once you've done that, you'll look at it and there are black specks everywhere. I missed a spot. You wanna make sure that there's no black specks in there when you glue it on. So I go and wash them. And I wash them pretty good, and then I let them dry before moving on to the next step. All right, so I now have these scuffed up and cleaned. So some black still comes off, but not too much. So I'm gonna take rubber cement, and I bought this one and I actually refill it, and I just made the biggest mess I've ever made doing this before. So this is gonna be a fun one. And you put a coat on. Now you want it to be as even as possible throughout all of the shoe. Now to go under the pieces like leather in here, I do stick it under and come up to the edge as much as should go on the attached to the sole. And if you get some on the leather up here, you can just sand it off later. Okay, so I do a pretty even coat, and then we're gonna let this sit for 20 minutes until it's completely dry. All right, so it's been a little over 20 minutes. It's time for coat 2. Now, it's more important on materials like the leather to do a second coat than it is on the rubber, but I still always do it on both. All right, we're gonna go ahead and let these sit again for another 20 to 30 minutes until they are completely dry to touch. All right, now that this is dry and I touch it, it's not tacky, I'm gonna use a heat gun to make it tacky. And I'm gonna start with one shoe and then the other, so let me get this one out of the way. So I'm gonna blow on it until it becomes tacky, like right now it's not. And then I'm gonna stick them together very carefully and clamp them down. All right, so now they're tacky just enough, and the thinner soles will curl like this, the thicker ones won't. So you want to get it as flat as you can. So the thinner are harder to work with in this case. And I usually start with the big toe, and I'm gonna fold this kind of up so it's out of the way, because once it touches, it is there. Oops. So I go around and I clamp to the weakest points, and then I'm gonna look for anything that seems like it's just like not quite sticking, like right there, it wasn't quite as down as I'd like, and I just clamp it. So I got a whole bunch of these little clamps, and I'll go around And this is going to be more obvious on thicker soles. Like this is extremely thin here. And you can see this extra. This is what I'll go through and cut off and trim at the end. So this one I wasn't quite as straight on. You can see the leather hanging over, but you saw me try to pull it off. It is really difficult, but you can at this point take a pair of scissors. This one's an F. I want to make sure that this doesn't get glued to the stuff I'm not using there. I'm going to cut it off. And then I can do more cleanup later. But it was large enough, like it's still fitting over here. It should have just been slightly to the side. And that's it. I'm gonna wait another day or so, take all the clamps off and trim everything around, and we'll be good to go. I went ahead and left these overnight, so I'm gonna take all the clamps off now and we're gonna see what we're working with. Okay, so I'm just gonna go around and see if there's any spot that really needs to be trimmed up. All right, I have seen some patterns, well, they'll just glue the shoe onto the material and then cut it off around too. So that's also an option, but I would do the same thing with the extra scuffing and the extra glue.